to allow academic scholars to consult the works of troublemakers like Karl Marx. These books by J.M. Coetzee need not be banned, my censors in effect said, because they will be read only by people in the profession of literature. Remember, In the Heart of the Country, they commented, it will be read and enjoyed only by intellectuals. On Waiting for the Barbarians, it quite lacks popular appeal. The likely readership will be limited largely to the intelligentsia and the discriminating minority, unquote. In a way, these people saw themselves as citizens of the same republic of letters as myself, as fundamentally well-disposed towards writers and writing, even as unsung heroes of a kind, taking on a dirty job. After all, no one likes or admires censors, in order to protect South African literature against the politicians and the Philistines. And if they happen to earn a little extra money through their activities, so did book reviewers. And what were they but book reviewers with unusual powers? How representative were these figures, Anna Bassel, Light and Fencher, Scott's wife, of the system in which they were cogs? How much can the now more or less defunct South African book censoring apparatus tell us about censorship in general? My guess is that the old South African system was more representative of regimes of censorship than we usually think, or at least more representative than our stereotypes dictate. The typical censor in South Africa or elsewhere does not have to be the nondescript little bureaucrat whom I earlier described. On the contrary, the censor may be an intelligent person with a real-life job who does a little censoring in his or her free time because it brings in a useful supplementary income. Someone who believes in censorship, both because he or she is conservatively inclined, doesn't want the country to be flooded with pornography, doesn't want the existing social or political order to be overthrown, and because he or she has told himself or herself that if he or she doesn't do the job, then some state functionary will. Someone who can't tell serious literature from exploitative trash and who couldn't care less whether literary culture flourishes or not. When censors of this kind settle down at home after a day's work with a volume of Anthony Trollope or Jane Austen on their lap and Mozart on the sound system, they probably think of themselves as civilized people doing a good job, a job worth doing. If they have a patron saint, it is probably Tsar Nicholas I of Russia, who presided over the most repressive censorship in all of Europe, created in order to insulate Russia from subversive foreign ideas, yet who offered to act as the personal censor to Alexander Pushkin, not in order to ensure that the greatest Russian poet of the day would have the most rigorous standards of all applied to him, but on the contrary, to shield him from mere ignorant, literal-minded functionaries and allow him the greatest creative leeway within the law. Like Nicholas I, the men and women I call my censors probably picture themselves as good people working in hard historical times unappreciated, unthanked, on the one hand safeguarding the fragile social order, while on the other hand holding a guiding and protective wing over the artist. Of course, just as Tsar Nicholas did not spread his protective wing over all Russian writers, so the South African censors did not protect every South African writer from the law. I suspect that only a handful qualified for this special treatment. Who the others were, besides myself, I have no idea. But why did I qualify for special treatment? In my view, there were 3 reasons. 1, I was white and I was an Afrikaner, even if I was not a pure Afrikaner, one of the folk. No writer of colour could have expected the kind of sympathetic treatment I received. Second reason, I came from the same class and the same class stratum as the censors themselves, namely the middle class intelligentsia. Third reason, I was not a popular writer. As they pointed out time and again in their reports, my books were not for mass consumption.